Greetings, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Dharma Junkie podcast. So it's been a while. I haven't put out an episode in, I don't even know how long. It's been a while. I've been really busy with school and this training that I'm doing, and I've started a meditation group here in Pensacola called Gulf Coast Dharma. If you're ever in the area, we meet every Monday at 7 o'clock at Empathic Practice, which is located at 2701 North 12th Avenue. So if you're in the area, feel free to stop by and check it out. Sit, meditate, hang out. I'm trying to build a community. Anyway, so it's been a while since I put an episode out, but this episode I recorded a few months ago with my friend Chris Plourde. We talked about masculinity, meditation, psychedelics, and just being your best self. So I kind of dug this one out of the archives. I've actually got many episodes that I have done interviews for and recorded and haven't released yet. So look forward to those coming out very soon. I've got a bunch of interviews coming up as well. So I'm going to try to get the ball kind of back rolling on the podcast again. So anyway, I'm not going to talk anymore because I know you don't want to hear my voice. So without further ado, Chris Plourde.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Chris Plourde, nice to have you here. Thank you for joining me today. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Really appreciate you having me on, Justin. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with a little bit of background about yourself and what it is that you do. And we'll just go from there.
Great. Yeah. So I'm a conscious performance coach. I work with people from all walks of life, different organizations personally. And, like you talked about, it's about how do we really get them to perform at their very best consciously, right? How do we look at all areas of their life, from spirituality, personal relationships, financial, health and well-being, and, financial, like how is our relationship with money as well. So I cover all aspects of that. And kind of how I got into it was, having an old programming growing up, thinking, I had to be, get a business degree, which I did, and work for a corporation. And if I had a great job with amazing benefits, I'd be able to buy a house, have a family, life would be set, I'd be happy. And that was the programming, the story that got put in me at a very young age that I followed through with into my 20s until, I got to that and I had that, and then realized that I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. And there was something missing. And it had nothing to do with the company's fault. It had everything to do with my calling and what my soul was meant to do. And that was about coaching and working with people on a really deep level. It started in the fitness industry and worked its way into, just tapping into what each person's purpose was and unleashing their gifts and really getting them to follow their true path and love in life. And, I'm fortunate that I get to work with people to do this hard work to get them to where they can be free and happy, fulfilled in their life.
Right on, man. That's awesome. So what did you do in the fitness industry exactly?
So I was a trainer. I worked for various companies as a presenter. So I certified thousands of instructors around the world, just in the health and well-being. I mean, in all areas, I was, just really diving into the essence of them. I coached triathletes, marathon runners, cyclists. I was a hardcore cyclist for a while. So just kind of a broad spectrum of health and well-being. But, what I really loved and all the courses I created was about what is the why within us? What is really motivating us? Not about crossing the finish line. It wasn't about losing 20 pounds. It was about, there was something deeper there, because it's really easy once you tap into it and you hold somebody accountable to get them there. But like in my background in corporate, once you get there, what's still missing? Right. And so we hit the why first and foremost before we move forward.
Yeah, that's an excellent question to ask. And I think that's important that we ask that of everything that we do. It's like, using that as an example, it's like, okay, so you want to get in shape. Mm-hmm. Well, why do you want to get in shape? Well, I want to look good. Well, why do you want to look good? Well, I want this. It's like, well, why do you want that? And you just keep going, why? Mm-hmm. Eventually you get to that root of exactly what they want. And because I think a lot of times people don't know what they want.
No, it's feeling something that was missing at a young age. Maybe they went through a really traumatic thing, something that was that they wouldn't wish upon anybody else in their life. But that catapulted them into, well, I never want that to happen again. So I'm going to avoid that at all costs. And those emotions that come up along with that, I'm going to bury. And so that's the whole point. And the problem with so many people is they realize there's been an avoidance, a running away from what they don't want in life. Yeah. And what we get them to try to fixate on is, okay, now what do you want? What is that next mountain? Let's get really clear and collaborate with the universe so that we can start moving in that direction and make decisions based on where you're going, not where you don't want to go.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of avoidance in life, I'm a practicing Buddhist of sorts, and so we got all the lists in Theravadan Buddhism, and that's one of the 5 hindrances to awakening is aversion. So yeah. I avoided so many problems for so long before I sat down and did the whole why thing to myself, and if you actually sit down and ask, what you want and why, and kind of work through some of that stuff, it's like, man, then the doors just kind of open all up. What I found for myself, and I can really only speak for myself and my personal experience, is that, man, there's no easy way to do anything. And like the only real way to get through anything is just straight through it. You can't try to shove it back or go around it. Like I've tried to sidestep my problems for many years, and it didn't get me anywhere.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. It's like, that's why they call it the work, right? But it doesn't have to be suffering. Right. I think that's the big difference. People think, well, it's so hard. It's resistance that comes up, and when this happens, I'm going to go into this spiral of just hell. And that's not the case. That's a story a lot of people make up in their minds. If we look at what resistance is actually here to help us and make us stronger, not only just the physical aspects of our life, for if we want to get our bodies strong, but our emotions, So when we meet that resistance, that's part of the game that the universe plays. Is it wants you to see it. It wants you to become stronger. That's why it's there. So if we can go, okay, I see you, let's go into this. Let's learn to dance with it opposed to fight with it. Mm-hmm. And then that's where the true freedom and happiness and everything else that we seek in life, it's right there, but it's within us, not somewhere else. And that's where we get to unfold. Even with other people, other circumstances that come into our lives, we think it's them or this and this problem. And if this person didn't show up, and it's like, no, like this, these are here because these triggers keep coming back over and over and over again to show you where you're not free. So let's look at that and say, what are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me? So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. It's funny. If you look at everything that bothers you, it's like, it's not about the other person or the thing. It's like, it's always internal. It's always,
that's right.
And most of the time, when we get into a disagreement with somebody, we're just having an argument with ourselves.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I had a teacher that said one time he used to sit people in front of the room that have issues within the class. And he goes, okay, you two are going to sit and look at each other, right? And right in the eye, and you're going to tell each other what's wrong. But before you do that, I want you to start with this, a judgment I have about you that's really about me, and then tell them what it is. And then the other person has to say thank you, and they have to repeat a judgment I have about you that's really about me, and this is what bothers me. So, and it goes back and forth about 2 or 3 times, and they both realize, whoa, okay, it's me. And then there's a hug and a cry and everything else that goes on.
That's excellent. That's a great exercise.
Yeah.
I'm gonna adapt that in some of the meetings that I do. I think that's great.
Yeah, my breathwork teacher taught us that, David Elliott.
Oh, that's nice. That's an excellent one. But yeah, pain's a constant thing. Like there's always going to be pain, but yeah, you know, as you were saying, suffering's optional. Yeah. There's events that are going to happen. There's going to be negative experiences in life, or perceived negative experiences, you know, because really there's just experience. There's really no, I mean, obviously there are some experiences which are pretty inherently negative, you know, losing a loved one. I mean, the loss is always a negative experience in that aspect. You know, there's life sucks sometimes, and that's the bottom line. Like life's gonna suck sometimes. Like nobody guaranteed that life was just this happy joyride. Like it's not that at all. No. So like once you are able to meet that with, you know, just non-judgmental present time awareness, then it's like, okay, well, you know, right now it's like this, but you know, we know that it's impermanent and you know, it's not going to last. You know, whatever the shittiest situation you could be going through is going to eventually going to stop. And why obsess over? Like, why torture yourself?
Right. Well, you know, losing a loved one or someone close to you, no one would want to wish that on anybody. Oh, absolutely not. But unfortunately, it just it happens, and we grieve it and we go through it. But what is it that we can take from it? You know, I lost a sister at the age of 12 and she was 9. And that was a huge loss for my family, you know, but it brought us closer together. And what I eventually got to remember was her as this beaming light. You know, she came and blessed us for 9 years. And it was amazing to see her positivity. She was sick those entire, 9 years with heart disease, but she showed up and just never complained. And she just went through life and just was joyful, and I get an opportunity now to kind of give back to, the Heart Association or something that is going to really impact kids with heart disease. Another example is, the mother, a mother lost her daughter to a drunk driver. And what did she do? She created MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Of course you're going to grieve that, but what can you take from that lesson? What can you take from that circumstance? Because these are the major things that we have gone through. And then how do we now use those to be in service to the world? Because I think it's a deep inherent need, a crave that we came to Earth to do, is to serve others and the Earth. And how can we do that? We look at our circumstances and the major things we've been through, and then what can we do to use those as a superpower as opposed to something that's going to hold us down? Absolutely, man. I couldn't possibly agree with you more. Like for me, like being in service to others, and like if I had to give a mission statement for like what I do with my life, it's, I am trying to lessen the amount of suffering in the world. And that blanket statement, in whatever capacity that is, I am trying to lessen the amount of suffering that is present in the world. And that's where I find my meaning at, that's why I get up in the morning. That's why that's why I shave. That's why I do all the things I do and work as hard as I do, is really in service to others, because there's really no greater joy in life than helping other people. We can do all this selfish shit in the world, but at the end of the day, that doesn't make you feel complete. But helping another person, that's where the money's at. And I don't mean actual money, but that's where the joy and the meaning comes in for me, is really just being in service to others. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you, man. Yeah. So it could be the money. It could be, but it's like, but we want to feel fulfilled. And, fortunately, I've worked with a lot of millionaires and billionaires in my life, and a lot of them have built these huge businesses, never have to worry about money nor their kids, and they're unfulfilled. Right. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And how do they now find that purpose, that deep rooted purpose that goes beyond money? So exactly what you just said. Yep. Well, if you're making a ton of money, like the best thing you can do with it is kind of give back to the world, in whatever 100%. Capacity that is. Like if you're making enough money to support yourself in any capacity that you have, you got millions of dollars, like go ahead and like spread that around a little bit, because that's what it's for. Like what else are you doing? That's right. Really, You got it.
how many boats and yachts and helicopters and shit do you need? Like let's help some people out with some of this, at least a little bit, right?
That's right. That's right.
So we were talking about like total human optimization and just peak performance. And so like, what do you do to kind of direct people into that? Like, what do you do to like show people exactly we've already talked about the why, but further than that, what do you do with your clients to really help them figure out what it will take for them to meet their peak performance?
Right. I think first of all, it's dealing with, like you said, the why and unleashing those gifts and finding what happened and reframing a lot of disrupting the old patterns and reframing what we have done in order to move into the direction we want to move into. How we now use those tools, what can we use? So many different things, I love teaching breath work because I think breath work is one of those things that really allows us to peel back the layers, get to our soul, like really meet our soul and take the masks off as well. Normalizes or stabilizes our nervous system, brings down cortisol levels, gets us into our right brain, so we're able to use that. Same thing with meditation. I'm loving saunas and cold plunge or cold showers, just to there's so many benefits to these. I have study after study of what those can do. It's bringing in, exercise routine. It's not about following somebody else's exercise routine. It's about following what works for you. What do you like to do for your body? So many people get confused of, I think I need bigger arms or a bigger chest. And it's like, well, my whole thing is in having lifted weights since the age of 13 and now loving yoga more than anything because of and swimming because of how open I am. I get because of it is opening the body and allowing the energy to flow through, and that's where the creative side comes into play. That's where we get to really have fun and play. And I mentioned the right brain, left brain, and I call it mental fitness, or positive intelligence calls it mental fitness, and a lot of the studies that are out are showing that a lot of people focus or coming from that left brain survival place in their body. Right. Like, so if the judge, we'll call it the judgment, we'll call it the saboteurs. Oh, yeah. Right. So when we can identify why we're making decisions, the saboteurs, the judge that comes into play, right. And literally switch to the right brain, which is more of our sage or Jedi, coming from more compassion in our lives, coming from more innovation, creativity. That's the place we want to play in. That's where we get to be 10% happier, 30% exponentially happier, living 10 years longer. There's so many different studies. Again, I can refer you to studies on this too. But what I love to do with my clients is get them to catch that judge and bring them into the right brain by using various techniques, which we call, again, positive intelligence, calls mental fitness. And you can all go and take a test. I went through the coaching program, positiveintelligence.com, and they really take a 6-week program to get you to focus in on where you need to be to literally change your life, to change the way you're thinking, to bring that gray matter from the left survival brain into the right brain, where we can be all those things that I was just telling you about. So that's just a few of the things we tap on.
Right. So you said you're very into breath work. Do you follow like Wim Hof or anything?
Like I said, I have, I've watched some of the stuff. My certification came through the gentleman I mentioned earlier, David Elliott. So
where's he based out of? Is that Los Angeles?
He's based in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. He's based in LA,
Cool.
But now online, like everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. If you can't find it online, it probably doesn't exist, right?
That's right.
That's cool. So do you have like a meditation practice that you do, like a dedicated meditation practice? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's a morning routine that I usually do. And then most afternoons, kids get in the way sometimes, but that's it. So so I'm waking up, doing my lemon water, a little coffee, morning pages, writing out what is going on within my brain to kind of get it out on paper. And then I'm generally about 22 minutes of meditation, a little bit of breath work to start. And then I'm off for the day. And then later on, and I've gotten TM certified years back. So I used my mantra. And then in the afternoon, I'll take another meditation, sometimes at night if it's a little bit too chaotic in the house. So,
right on. Yeah.
With the young ones around. So
yeah, I feel you. So
you got to be adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Be like water. So,
right.
So you do TM.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For people who don't know what we're talking about, that's Transcendental Meditation. I do. I sit more of Vipassana, more of the insight tradition. But since I started meditating almost 10 years ago now, like really having a practice, but like my practice really strengthened within the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years. And just the insight and just like really getting to know yourself, like really, it's just is absolutely life-changing. And I can't, for anybody listening, and if you don't have a dedicated meditation practice, I highly recommend you get one, because you will see changes in your life almost immediately.
Right.
Just the reduction, the activity, and go ahead.
I just love, you're right. And it's not about, I think a lot of people get confused because they think they're going to like see immediate changes. And it's this they call it a practice.
Right.
So it's eventually you start to see these shifts happen. So all of a sudden it's anxiety isn't there as much. Your fears start to kind of dissipate. It's this opening of self, this energy that gets to start to bring in, bring in, the visualization that starts to happen. And again, everybody's practice is different, but it's really one of those things that I think is imperative, especially for our relationship. My wife and I have been together 18 years, married for 16.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. But that's a huge part of what we do, and making sure that, our kids, both our kids are TM certified, by the way. So
that's great.
Well, our good friend, was our TM teacher, Natalie Mendoza. And she really, came over and just not only gave it to us, but, gifted it to the kids as well. And, even though they might not use it all the time, at least they have that tool for when they're ready. They'll come in, walk in the room, and they see that mom and dad are meditating, they're doing their work, and that's our practice for us. And hopefully someday they'll see that example and use it for them, because it's been a tremendous trip, a journey we've both been on to see ourselves and help each other out and hold each other accountable to being the best versions of ourselves we can. So
that's beautiful, man. That sounds like a very healthy relationship. And I think that I think we can all aspire to have a relationship like that, and because it's so rare that I've found that it's pretty rare in a lot of cases that that both partners are willing to do that kind of heavy lifting. Generally you'll find it's like one partner is doing all the heavy lifting and the other one's kind of floundering a bit. But the fact that you're both doing it speaks volumes, and that's probably why you've been together so long. I would imagine.
I get to work with clients too, and couples a lot of the time, and it's unfortunate at the beginning when you get to see he did this, she did this, he did this, she did this, and if she just changed it, it's like no, it's look at ourselves, right? And I think I believe you have two marriages. Whether that's with the same person or the next or another person. And the second one is what we call the spiritual partnership. And we really discovered that doing journey work and finding meditation and really getting into ourselves and what spirituality is. And, I can remember when we started this, like really got into it 8-9 years ago, it was like, oh, I see who you are for me now. And the same thing. It's not about something that I need to do or change. It's about our communication. It's about how we speak to ourselves and one another. And of course, we get in rifts and fights and disagreements, but we always come back to, let's talk about this. let's discuss what's going on. Let's have an open dialogue and let's be really truthful with it, even though it's uncomfortable. I think that's the key is the communication, is the truth.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think that, any couple that says that they don't argue or fight are either like full of shit or there's something wrong with the relationship. And right along the lines of what you were saying, I think that the healthiest relationships are the ones that you're going to have disagreements, obviously, because you're two different people, but it's coming to that resolution peacefully and really being able to communicate and not break that connection with our own bullshit, basically.
That's right.
Not spewing our own emotional garbage all over your partner. And communication is 100%. Yeah. And it's everything. It's everything.
It's crazy. Yeah. And so many people, and just have no idea that they're doing it. I was involved with men's teams and organizations for 14 years. I still am. I still have a men's team that I work with, but that's a big part of what we work with these men on, is getting them to know that, hey, you have the opportunity to really tap into your masculinity and really hold that space for her feminine. And this is why she's not doing this. You're not keeping her safe. You're not holding that space in the way she needs to, or he, it doesn't matter. There's a feminine and a masculine to everything. Absolutely. And it's a matter of identifying what you are. You're how much feminine, how much masculine do you hold within yourself, and vice versa. And then how do you find that polarity, that attraction between the both? And so that you're both filled up, you're both doing what you need to do, and you're supporting each other in your lifelong journey. So,
yeah, man, you said something that really resonated with me, and it's that most people don't even realize that they're doing it. And that's a very important thing to note, because people just live, most people, people without say an insight practice or a TM practice, or people that just don't have any kind of mindfulness practice or anything where they just slow down and really go within and kind of concentrate on just, turning off the discursive thoughts, just turning the volume down on that and really kind of taking a look at themselves. I think it's very necessary. Yeah. In order to be able to really get to know yourself. And because I think most people just live their life in a state of trance,
Yeah.
They have this misconception that their thoughts are of their own creation. And then they start to believe all that crazy shit that their brain tells them. It's like,
that's right.
Hey man, don't listen to that guy. Don't listen to that guy at all. It's he's a terrible master,
The judge. That's the left brain judge. Right?
Judge Judy. Yeah, Judge Reinhold.
That's it.
It's that, it's that inner critic voice, man. And it's not just the inner critic, but that's kind of how it shows up sometimes. And and I'm of the opinion that that's we've been talking about programming a lot. That's programming that was installed in childhood to protect you from whatever external thing you needed protecting from, to harden your heart so it wouldn't be broken. But now that we're adults and we're trying to be in healthy adult relationships, it's you got to soften the heart. You've got to break through those walls you put up and really soften into yourself.
That's vital. That's so vital. It's that's what trauma is. Trauma is something we create in order to survive. Right. And whether it's a big trauma or a little trauma, you might have had hundreds of little traumas, but if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be able to function as a human. Right. You'd just be stagnant and stuck based on something that happened to you that was terrible. So we create this in order to move forward. But exactly what you just said, it's programming that we go through probably before the age of 20, 25, somewhere in there, that now we're basing all our life's events on, that we're making decisions based upon avoidance of that, or doing that over and over again, or something that worked for us that we're like, okay, let's do repeat and repeat and repeat until it's not working anymore. And you go, well, why isn't it working anymore? Because it's old programming. It's not serving you to get to this next level. So it's having the courage to kind of try something new and fall and fail and get right back up and do it again and do it again. But following what you just said is your heart, and having the courage to open that up. And I think that vulnerability is key to tapping into your own instincts, because without it, you're never going to find out that person you really are. And that's courageous, is feeling your feels, That's what courage is. People say, well, I built this multi-million. Yeah, that was great. Fantastic. You did that. But tell me who you are. Tell me why you did that.
Right.
Tell me how is this serving people? Is it bettering people's lives? And that's what I want to get to the bottom of is that essence of someone's truth and why they're here on this earth today.
Right. Yeah, man. Courage is a big thing. And for me, that's shown up because I think true courageousness isn't losing your fear. I think it's being scared as hell and doing the damn thing anyway.
100%.
That's courageous, having those nerves pop up and be like, oh God, I feel like I want to throw up, and just still pushing through and getting the thing done, man.
That's right.
I'm in this kind of this training thing where I'm having to learn basically public speaking. And so, I for some reason, I used to be a touring musician and shit, but for some reason, sitting there and talking about Buddhist topics, I don't know, I get this incredible nerves. So I've had to learn to reframe it from being kind of a fear thing. Cause fear and excitement are pretty mirrored. They're the same physiological response.
Right.
You just have to change the idea that you're afraid to you're excited, and it's okay, this is just what my body does when I'm getting ready to speak in front of a group of people.
Right.
And so now that's just the way I have to look at it. And it's I'm not afraid of it. It's just okay, my body's doing that thing that it does before I get ready to talk.
You're speaking my language. We're speaking each other's language. And when I did that, when I realized that years ago, because I remember saying to myself, I was in front of 200-300 people a week teaching classes and giving workshops, prior to the pandemic. And I remember going in front of these, CEOs and celebrities and getting ready to teach and going, oh my God, my nerves. I just wish that wasn't there. And then I realized that they're butterflies, right? I was I got a chance to reframe it. I said, no, I want these butterflies because this is what heightens me. This is what that makes me speak a little clearer. It gives me a little bit of tone, a little bit more energy, a little bit more power, a little bit more fire. So it's redirecting that. And I go, when I don't feel those anymore, I'm in the wrong room. So I look for those now and then go and change them into excitement. Notice the fear, but the fear is somewhere in the back. It's not in the front driving or even in the passenger seat. It's way in the back going, I see you, but we have a message here.
Right.
And we're going to make sure that this message is delivered in a powerful way so that people get value out of whatever they showed up for today. Right. And it's understanding. Yeah, I like that. And by the way, coming out of the pandemic and not being in front of people for 2 years or whatever, year and a half, doing my first talk, I came into my first room and I was like, oh man. And for the first time in 20 something years, I was stuck. I wanted to run out of the room.
Right.
And, and then it was because I let myself get overwhelmed with energy. I wasn't there. So I think it's practice. It's getting yourself in there. It's adapting that nervous system. It's understanding, is it your energy or theirs? And being able to put that in in the right frame, in that right direction so that you all feel it, and it's a win-win for everybody in the room.
Yeah.
But, I've come out of it a couple more talks now and I think we're all right, knock on wood, but you never know.
You know, what's super interesting to me, and I just learned this the other day, is that butterfly feeling that you get when you're in a situation like that is it's your blood moving away from your digestive tract and recirculating to your organs, so that if you have to escape, or, the fight or flight thing, if you have to escape, your body is in the ready mode. So when you get that fear or that excitement, it's just your body preparing for action. It was super fascinating to me. It's so that's what that feeling is. It's literally your blood moving out of your digestive tract and into your organs. It's astounding.
So we can do what we need to do.
Right. It's the
That's
same reason
why we need to start jumping beforehand.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the same reason, I don't know about you, but if I got something going on that initiates that physiological response, I always have to go to the bathroom before.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
That's your body's voiding the system just in case you got to run, get out of there.
That is really interesting. I never heard of it that way before, but yeah, you're right. I'm like, yep, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to stop. I remember that in early days in wrestling in high school, being like, oh, here we go again,
right.
But I guess I was in the right room.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting looking at it like that and like really like paying attention to what that actually is, because you can be like, oh, I've got these butterflies. It's like, nah, this is your body getting ready to do some shit you got to do. It's like, you're just excited about what's going on. You're just, you're nerd. And, I think a lot of times, especially with, public speaking and teaching classes and things of that nature, I think that the main reason our body responds that way is not because we're afraid, but because we are excited to share this message. And we receive it as fear because there's probably a little bit of underlying fear because who wants to be in front of a room full of people? It's a perfect opportunity to embarrass the shit out of yourself if you're not ready,
That's right.
But just be prepared.
Yeah. Well, it is, but it's also, I think, it's also trusting your heart too and going, yeah, this is growth. We talked about resistance earlier.
Yeah.
That resistance is there and it's a reframing of how we work with it. If it's here to make us stronger and help us grow and expand, then great. Like that's the holding on to, that's the understanding, the emotional intelligence that you get to cultivate,
right.
Every time you get up in front of a room or enter something that is really some people call it painstaking, but whatever that is. But the more you do it, it's repetition. It's just, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And eventually, right. Who knows where you could be, what mountain you could climb.
Absolutely. It was just like going to the gym, you're flexing that muscle. You're just training that muscle to be able to do it, and I think the more that you do it and the more repetition that you have with, if your biggest fear is getting in front of people and speaking, which it's not my biggest fear, but like for a while, for some reason, I have no idea. Cause I was, like I said, I was a touring musician. I played by myself when I did. So I was always on the stage by myself. And I don't think that feeling ever left when I was on the stage, but I've started to ease into it more, now that I'm doing it and just speaking to people. And I think it really, you said speaking from the heart. I think that is so important. I think if you're speaking from the heart, then, it's important to be prepared. But if you kind of know what you're talking about and you're passionate about it, like just get out there and do it, man. You got to just push through, and it'll get easier. It'll get, it's gotten easier for me every time.
Yeah, it sure does.
I mean, I don't want to speak too soon.
You're living your purpose, man. You're doing it. You're following it. So.
I mean, I think so. I'm pretty sure that I am. I'm pretty solid in that belief that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because I love doing every bit of it. There's not a thing that I've got, like, it gets stressful at times because I've got a pretty full plate with all the things that I've got going on. But, I've had a full plate before and was absolutely miserable. And now I've got a full plate and I love every second of it. It's like, yeah, I've got a lot to do, but it's all stuff I want to do. It's all stuff that I find meaning in and purpose. And
it's joy. That's where I think the universe wants us to play in, is our joy. Right. I know for years it was like, no, I have to do this. Like, when I was a kid, paving asphalt and waitering in the same day and doing all these jobs that I just went through that just drained the hell out of me. That wasn't joyful. That was old. You suck it up, dude. Go through it. This is what you got to do in order to be a man.
Yep.
Right. Now it's like, no, we're all meant to follow our joy like you're doing, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Perfection is a peak that you're never going to reach. You'd be bored if you were perfect because nobody would be able to relate to you. So it's a matter of kind of going down that path that you might not see you're following joy and you're not seeing the exact path that you're going to take, but it unfolds to you in the just right ways and the just right times. As long as you're following that joy, go for it. Trust it. It's going to come in the way that it should.
Yep. Just keep making that next right decision that resonates with your soul, and more will be revealed.
So much. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
That's been my experience anyway. And, that's what I tell people. I'm just keep doing the next right thing. If you feel like you're making the wrong decision, then don't do it. Like, really, like, you have to, you really have to start trusting your instincts, because most of the time your instincts are pretty right.
That's right. And like you said, opening up your heart, that's why it's so important to have the courage to get vulnerable, because that's where your instincts lie. You really trust those feelings that exist within them. That's what's going to guide you into the right direction.
Yeah. And I think that, especially as men, that is a tough thing for a lot of men to do, is open up and be vulnerable, because growing up, especially in our culture, we grow up, men don't cry, suck it up, and man up, all this shit. And it's like, man, get out of my face with that. Like, it's so damaging. It really is.
So
when you
damaging.
look at it, it's so damaging to just men as a whole, like individually, and I mean, just across the board. Like, that's been a big topic of discussion for me lately, is just what is expected of us as men societally. You were talking about how you went and you got the job, and you're doing, just man up and just get through it. Like, it's like, no, not so much. And you because if you're working jobs that you find no meaning in, like that's a one-way ticket to misery. That's a one-way ticket to unneeded suffering. It's like, well, you could just be doing what you want to do. It might not be as financially lucrative at first, but at first, it just keep going. Just keep going.
That's right. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I've done jobs that I just loved. Like, I remember back in the day, teaching a spinning class that I got basically nothing for. And then I made an entire career out of it, that I was getting paid substantial amounts to teach and to travel around the world and do that, and to bring in classes. It was amazing. I couldn't believe what I was making off of it, but I can remember getting paid like $12 a class to teach. And I was like, I don't care. I love this, This is great. And then now it's evolved into breath work and teaching meditation and all this other stuff. And it doesn't matter. Yeah, I do care what it gets, because I have a family I have to support, but at the same time, if somebody handed me a check for $100 million, I'd still keep teaching it, because I love to teach it, because I know what the benefits and what it gives to people.
Right.
And speaking to your, the sensitivity thing again with men, growing up as a kid, I was super sensitive, like to the point where I'd cry at the drop of a hat. I thought there was something wrong with me growing up in Boston, and it got to the point where I was just like, I convinced my parents there was something wrong with me and I need therapy, because I was so sensitive. Like, literally, as an elementary school kid, I was in therapy thinking there was something wrong with me.
Oh no, I was also in therapy in elementary school. So.
but I grew this arm. We'll get into that one in a minute. But this armor, and started manning up, so to speak, and put this block on,
hardening that heart.
Yep.
And
it wasn't until I got into my 20s and 30s where I realized, you need to stop. This isn't serving you anymore. This isn't serving you. You need to feel you. You need to be in touch with you and get back to that sensitive place. And that's when I found the men's organization and teams. And it was like, watched men really they modeled to me what vulnerability was. Like, men from all walks of life. And then it was so important to your health in order to get that out.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I realized. And now I, teach in a certain way. It's about that modern masculinity. It's not about what we thought, that old programming.
Right.
So,
yeah, man. Modern masculinity. That's a real thing, because it's almost, and especially like today, I've talked with some other guests about this. Like, it seems like with the culture shifting the way it is, like almost anything that is inherently masculine is always labeled toxic masculinity. And it's like, no, it's not like that. Like, there is toxic masculinity, just like there's toxic femininity.
Right.
But there's also divine femininity and divine masculinity. So, like, you can't have one without the other.
It's all how you view it. Right.
Yeah.
That's it. It's how we view it. Cause I was actually talking about this in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, I've never heard that modern masculinity before. She goes, I always talk about toxic masculinity. I go, I haven't ever talked about toxic. I talk about leadership that is skewed in the world today, that needs a little upgrade, that needs to do things a different way. I think that structure is falling down, whether we like it or not. Not to say that people aren't going to fight like hell to keep it the way it is, but it's falling, and we need to not only understand what modern masculinity is, but train leaders in the way that people are really going to respond, so that they can be in their joy. They can do the best jobs they can, coming from the right place within them that they can, not basing it upon fear or damaging old things that keep coming up for them, not staying out of a job because they have to, right? Because they get to. They're coming from an ownership perspective as opposed to a victim perspective. Yeah. And that's that shift that I think people really need to kind of tap into and feel into and do the work on.
Right. So. Yeah, absolutely. And you said something funny, and I had a little silly thought about it. You said if somebody cut you a check for $100 million, you'd still go teach the class. And yeah, me too, because that's where I get my meaning from. Like if I had $100 million, I could easily just go lay on the beach every day, and that would stop being fun after the first day. You know what I'm saying? Like that one day would be fun. And it's fun to do occasionally, but that's not where like the meaning in life for me is. Like for me, like I find meaning in responsibility, and I find meaning in helping people. And that's where I get my meaning at. Like is is like being accountable and responsible, and like being, I hate to even throw this out there like that, but like being a man, like I take care of shit. Like, that is in my nature. Like as a man, I want to solve problems, and I want to help people. Like, yeah.
I got this weekend, a big download on exactly what you just said. It was around discipline, right? And I'll cut back for a second and based upon that $100 million check again, right? Because I think most people, they're going to travel and buy their homes and do whatever, but then they're going to sit there and probably go, okay, now what?
Yeah, I'm fucking bored.
Where's the meaning? I can't tell you how many people I've worked with whose husbands or wives have made this money, and then the spouse comes to me going, I need to find meaning. They don't have to work ever again, but I need to find my meaning.
Right.
And that's what I get to work with them on. But that's the beauty is tapping into that and finding that aspect and getting back to discipline. Discipline isn't this work suffering thing that most people look at and go, oh, I have to. And I think discipline, in my experience, equals freedom.
Oh yeah, right. Absolutely.
Like
is that a Jocko Willink?
Yeah, well, I possibly. I mean, I haven't heard him exactly say like that, but he does.
Yeah,
but
I say that shit all the time.
He posts a picture of his watch at 4:30,
like every morning,
every single morning, right? Yeah, but look, ex-Navy SEAL, probably still does everything. He's the man's man, but he's in it. He's doing the stuff to take care of himself first, so he can be the best version of himself that he can.
That's it.
Because he's in service. Right. It's not about suffering in the morning. It's about feeling good and filling your cup up, not going through the day half full, because that's the way most people go through the day. He knows that is the path to keeping him the best version of himself. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people need to tap into on their own souls, so to speak.
Right. It's like the oxygen mask analogy, like when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask drop down, they say, put it on yourself first, because otherwise you're not going to be able to help anybody else. And that's exactly why I kind of live my life the way I do. It's like, I try to be the most fit I can, in every way. I try to be mentally fit and physically fit and spiritually fit, so I can be fit for service to others.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and that's what it's all about. That's my man. Actually, right before we jumped on here for this podcast, I literally just left the gym, Yeah. And I've got yoga tonight. So
I love it. Yeah. I was at, I did my workout this morning, got on the bike, did a little beach run, and then I just hit the sauna right before this, and then an ice cold shower right after,
that's my favorite. That's my favorite. There's going from the sauna right into the ice cold shower. That's one of my favorite. I like going back and forth too. Like I'll do the sauna for a little bit, and then the shower, and then back into the sauna, and then back into the shower. Man. When
I have time, that's my jam right there.
So. Yeah, we've got
or the cold plunge if they have it.
Oh yeah. Not too many places have that around here. Well, you in LA probably have a lot more places than we do here. It's
right.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I missed over the pandemic, is not having that
Right.
the sauna, but we have one about 5 blocks from us now at the gym right here. So I'm like, thank God it's back. I got a study for you on the benefits of the sauna. If you haven't seen Rhonda Patrick's study, she has like a 17-page study out right now that just came out over the past couple of months that talks about the benefits of the sauna, and they're extraordinary. Like, I mean, off the charts on how good it is for you.
Right. No, I love her. First of all, I love Rhonda Patrick. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
And second, I'm definitely going to look that up because I would love to read that study.
I'll send it over to you when we're done here.
Thanks, man. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate that. And I will put a link to that study into the liner notes of the episode so everybody else can, can check it out. Because, as you're saying, man, it's just so beneficial. All these things we've talked about are just so beneficial. And why wouldn't you want to do those things? Like if we're sitting here saying, hey, these are things that could help you, like at least give them a shot, like, right. I mean, I'll try anything, for a little while just to see if it works. But, I think a lot of times people, when they don't see results immediately, it's just like going to the gym with the whole New Year's resolution thing. When people don't start seeing results immediately, they're like, oh, it's not working. It's like, well, you see yourself every day though. Like even if it was working, you wouldn't notice if it was working.
Right. Well, I got an answer to that question that most people are probably thinking in their heads. The first answer, what you just said, why wouldn't you want to do it? There are probably people going time, energy, right? They don't have that. And it's like, one of the courses I teach is how to boundary up, putting up boundaries for optimal performance and success. And it's really going into what do we need to do to set loving boundaries within our life so that we can take care of ourselves. Right. I gave this to one of my clients that I was just starting with. I asked her, she's in the finance industry. She's trying to become a coach and a meditation teacher. She is partially. She has 2 kids. She's married. And so when I started working with her, I said, tell me how full your cup is on a scale of 1 to 10. And she said like a 5. And I go, okay, how much of you, the best version of you, are your kids getting? And she went, oh, like, I go, probably like a 3, right? 2. Right. So if you're not doing these things for yourself and making the time for this, like you just said, then how can you be that greatest version, the one with the most creativity, like thinking way, I know we use the term thinking outside the box, but really being as innovative as you can, right? As seeing the greatness in people that work with you and for you, of being able to really understand what your kids are here to do and teach them and raise them to be the best humans they can, like this is our duty, not only to put out the best content and teach and be in service, but be the example first and foremost, because most people won't even, they think they need to put others first. And I think they got that off. If you're taking care of you, then you're going to be able to take care of people in a way that you can't even perceive yet. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Oxygen mask first, like you said.
Yep. And exactly. If you're not taking care of yourself and really, really, really doing that act of self-love, because self-love for me isn't a feeling, it's an action. And it's doing these things. It's taking the time to meditate. It's taking the time to go to the gym. It's taking the time to read. It's taking the time to keep my cup full and to lead. And by keeping my cup full, it keeps me in a position to be the best version of myself and thereby lead by example.
Action. You just said it. The universe responds to action, right? That was the missing piece in the law of attraction, right? They talked about that, right? And I don't know if you saw the second one, but John Astroff talks about the law of Goya. They missed this. The law of Goya. It's get off your ass, right? Because when you put these things out there, right, and you're not getting into action, you're not making the phone calls,
you're not manifesting shit.
That's right. Like you got to go into the resistance. Like my wife and I went through this last week. We had an issue with, getting something covered with the kids. And we're just like, oh man, we have no options right now. I go, no, try this, talk to this person, text this person, Within 5 minutes of her getting into action, we had 2 options come back to us that we couldn't even anticipate were going to come. And it just relieved that challenge that just came to us. Right. Because we got into that action, which was uncomfortable for her to do, but she did it. And within 5 minutes, it was done. But that's what the universe responds to is your getting into that flow, getting into that movement, is doing things that initially is like, well, I don't know. That's hard. Yeah, it's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody ever said it would be easy, but it'll be worth it. Yeah, I think that was a big misconception with the whole law of attraction thing. It's like, yeah, you can think really put forward what you want into the universe, but you can't. That's not where it stops. Like, you got to do the fucking work. You got to do the work. You have to do the work. Like, nothing's going to just come to you. The manifestation thing is just figuring out what you want and then figuring out the steps to get there. That's really the only way it works. And I think people just think like, oh, I'll make this vision board and then everything will come true. It's like, probably not without a little bit of effort, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, that's right. That's where people get really confused. The vision boards are great.
Hey, I love them. They're great.
Yeah.
But do the work.
I work with my clients making Pinterest vision boards, but okay, now what are the 3 action steps you're going to take in order to get all those little things on your vision boards? Right. Now let's hold you accountable to get to those things. Right. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's taking the large goals and breaking them down into attainable goals, like, and not something that you wouldn't want to do. Like, if it's too much for you to do, then break it down smaller, break it down as small as you have to until you can just do the thing.
Momentum.
It doesn't,
small momentum pieces, eventually it grows. Yeah,
you get that one thing accomplished, and then that gives you the wherewithal and the resilience to be like, oh, I got that done. Now, okay, now maybe I can do a little bit more next time, and then a little bit more next time, a little bit more, and eventually you're doing the thing, and then you've got what you dreamed of. You've got everything you wanted because you put the work in. I think just so few people actually want to put the work in because work's hard. It's hard work. That's what it is.
And the other thing that stops people is because they can't see a clear path.
That's it.
I use the analogy.
Setting the goal, because if you don't have something to aim at, you'll never hit it.
Well, it's that and wanting to see a clear path. And I use the example of a mountain, right? You're climbing a mountain. You put that clear goal on top of the mountain. You start ascending the mountain, which is work, walking up the mountain. But that path isn't that perfect linear line going straight up. It zigzags. You can't see what's next. You can't see the right or the left, but you got to keep ascending, and the universe is going to provide you with the lessons, and all of these things are going to come your way to get you up that path in the just right way for you, not in the way that somebody else did, because nobody else has lived the life that you have right now. It's all completely different. So, and it's looking back when you get to the top and going, oh, I never saw that way I was going to come up. Well, I needed to take that lesson and go through that before I was able to get to this and to this and to that. And eventually I made it up here. And we got hundreds and sometimes thousands of mountains we got to climb just like that in our life, but it's just walking up. So.
Yep, absolutely. Well, luckily there are people out there such as yourself that will Sherpa them up the mountain.
But I'm not going to walk for them.
You can't do it. Don't be their Tenzing Norgay to their Edmund Hillary, but
yeah. So,
but yeah, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, man. I think it's been a really, really good conversation. I think hopefully everyone listening will get something out of it. Where can people find you at?
Great. Thanks. My website, chrisplourde.com. Got all sorts of new workshops coming out and retreats and classes you can take. You can take a free breathwork class, which is on there if you like. And then Instagram, which is Coach Chris Plourde. So awesome. Those are the 2 major ones. But thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. I look forward to hopefully speaking to you again.
Yeah.
Big thanks again to Chris for being on the show. If you would like to get in touch with him, he can be found at chrisplourde.com. That's CHIRSPLOURDE. As always, thank you for listening. This podcast will always be free, but if you want to help support and keep it going, donations can be made to Dharma Junkie at Cash App. As always, thank you for listening. This has been Dharma Junkie. I'm Justin. Namaste.